Now, the US Secretary of State John Kerry says Washington and Beijing will ramp up efforts to reach an agreement on a UN resolution regarding North Korea. Kerry is on a two-day visit to the Chinese capital. He's met China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi to discuss North Korea's recent nuclear test. Kerry is also due to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, Beijing's military presence in the South China Sea is also on the agenda.
And we look forward to working with China, which China agreed today to do, to engage in an accelerated effort at the United Nations, instructing both of our representatives to work together to try to achieve an understanding about the strong resolution that introduces significant new measures to curtail North Korea's ability to advance its prescribed nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
Well, Dan Epstein is in Beijing with the latest. Dan, North Korea's nuclear capability is on the agenda as well as many other things. Has any headway been made on that particularly?
Well, what we just heard from John Kerry was right. He wants increased understanding, but he also wants new measures. And I think that's what people are really going to be looking at, what the new measures are going to be coming out of having meetings like this. And so what we've heard might be in the pipeline is a UN resolution. And what specifically people are hoping that will include is sanctions by China, because they really are looking at China to impose sanctions that will send the strongest message of all. Sanctions that will affect North Korea's oil, its trade, its coal, sanctions that will be hard for North Korea to ignore. And if this happens, it can maybe really work towards resolving this kind of nuclear threat that many people are very worried about.
Well, that's perhaps something that the Chinese and the Americans can agree on, but one thing they don't agree on is the South China Sea. They'll be discussing that. It's going to be quite awkward for both of them to come to an agreement on that particular issue.
Yeah, they were quite muted on the topic of the South China Sea. In fact, very little was said. Wang Yi, China's foreign minister, did say that they are committed to not militarizing the zone. But of course, as we all know, they still claim sovereignty over the South China Sea, believe it is China's. So it's not really a promise that there will not be conflict. And if you look at the fact that John Kerry just came from meetings in Cambodia and Laos, and is trying to really kind of sway Asian nations to really take a more international look and not be swayed by Beijing. And that's not really reassuring for Beijing going ahead with the South China Sea. So I guess the conclusion is not enough was said on the South China Sea. We'll have to see what happens there.
Now, Dan, with these issues at play, how are the US and China relations? Are they going to be seeing eye to eye, or do you think that these talks will break up with a lot of disagreement?
Well, they're certainly making efforts, and a lot of the rhetoric right now is that we are seeing things eye to eye. A lot of, especially from China's side, they're always saying, we're working together for mutual understanding, mutual agreement, mutual cooperation. But that's just the rhetoric. It's really hard to tell whether that will have any meaningful effect going ahead. I think if China does start imposing sanctions on its neighbor North Korea, that could be really a symbol of real understanding between the two countries.
Well, Dan Epstein for us in Beijing for now. Thank you very much.